The state of Yemen has officially declared war on Israel, what it means for Middle East as well as would it turn into a global conflict. And then after that we'll look at something closer to home. Chinese military has sent a ship to Colombo that is in Sri Lanka. What it means for international security, we'll take a look at that. Welcome. This is the Nikhil Chaudhari show. Now, as I just told you, Yemen has officially declared war on the state of Israel. But why is that? Why are they involved in this conflict? Well, let me show you the map of the Middle East first, so then you will get a better idea of what I'm saying, because you need some geographical knowledge to understand this conflict and what's really going on. So let's take a look. So you can see Yemen is located in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. They're at the end of Arabian Peninsula, and then above them is Saudi Arabia, and then there is tiny piece of Israel, and then there is Palestine in that as well. But why Yemen has officially declared war? First, let me give you some context about it, then you will understand the situation better. The thing about Yemen is, whenever you have heard the country in the news, there's always civil war going on, and there is this civil war. The current one has been going on since 2014, so it's almost been 10 years. The country is in ruins, their economy is nowhere to be seen, and it's absolute chaos there, and still they have declared war on Israel. And the thing is that the people in power there are the Houthis. Now, who are Houthis? Houthis are basically a rebel group in Yemen. They are not the official government, by the way. So United Nations, they don't recognize the Houthis as the official government of Yemen. Some other Arabian countries do, especially Iran, and we'll get into that later. But first, they are in power and they are Shia Muslims. So there is another conflict going on in Middle East, as you might know, is that there is Shia versus Sunni. So Iran is Shia and Saudi Arabia is Sunni, and they are constantly fighting each other, and they basically use these states, these war-torn states like Yemen, or even the Palestine issue, you can say there's some part of that is there, and then Lebanon as well. So they all have these proxies within, and they fight among each other, not directly but using these proxies. But let me take you back to Yemen first. So there is this government which is not recognized by the UN, as I said, as well as other Western countries, and they are called the Houthis, and they declared war on Israel. They have declared war on Israel because they are backed by Iran. The only reason they are in power, that's because of Iran. And Iran hates Israel. Iran hates Jewish people. They are using Houthis in Yemen to start a war against Israel. Now, they already launched few of the missiles and Israel has struck them down. And so far, it hasn't escalated to that level. But then again, since yesterday, they have started it. And hopefully they don't get too much involved, because the more parties will get involved, the more chaos it's going to be. See, the first week of the war, we had Lebanon, and second week Syria also joined, then there are other countries with threatening to join, as well as maybe Jordan as well, and then there are countries who are cutting diplomatic ties with Israel. So all of this is going on, and then Yemen has joined in. So that's kind of a thing why Yemen is seriously trying to hurt Israel, even though their own country is in absolute mess. Now, another thing important is that Iran is the root of all the Middle East problems. As I have said in the previous episode, that Qatar also plays a big part in this, but Iran is the major player. Because whenever there is a conflict, whenever there are two parties trying to get hold of a country, Iran always seem to back the Shia group in that region, or the Shia rebels in that region. They have done the same thing in Lebanon. They are doing the same thing in so-called Palestine-Israel thing, and they are doing the same thing in Yemen as well. And that's what they do. Whenever there is conflict, they pick a side which would align with them. They fund them, they give them weapons, and then they make sure there is instability in Middle East because it helps them. And obviously there is this conflict of Shia and Sunni with Saudi Arabia as well. So that's the whole crux of the matter, and that's why Yemen are getting involved in the war. This is the 26th day of the war. We already have Syria, we already have Lebanon, we already have Jordan to some extent, and then now we have Yemen. And the problem with this is that the more this goes on, the more of these countries who are looking to make a play, the play especially is backed by Iran as well as other big players, and they are going to get involved, and this is going to turn into a global conflict. I'm not joking here, and I'm not trying to gaslight people. What I'm saying is true, because think about this. When this started, it was only for that specific region. It was just between Hamas and the IDF forces, and now everyone is getting involved. And if the people are supporting Palestinian cause and other things, then there are people who are going to support Israel. Like US already had ships in the Mediterranean Sea. Now Israel, to counter the Houthis in Yemen, they have sent their own ships in the Red Sea to counter all of this. So this is not de-escalating at all. As I've said in the episode before that, this is not looking good, because if this carries on for more, Next week we'll have another country joining in. Maybe Saudi Arabia now tries to get into this conflict, and they can get into this conflict even if they don't want to, because the thing is, as I've shown you on the map, Yemen is located below Saudi Arabia, then there is Saudi Arabia, and then there is Israel. Now all these Yemen rockets are going to fly over Saudi Arabia to Israel, and if they fail, and some of them have failed in the past and have struck some targets in Saudi Arabia, that could directly involve Saudi Arabia into getting into war, and we don't want that. What we want, de-escalation, what we want is to keep those two, the Hamas and IDF, and they are the only two they should fighting each other, not all these other parties basically. And if Yemen tries to do what they are doing right now, there is a good chance that Saudi Arabia could get hurt in this, and then they will get involved themselves into the conflict like Iran has. That's the thing. So let's hope that does not happen, and let's hope that the conflict stays between Hamas and IDF forces. Now let's focus our attention something closer to home, as we tend to do at the end of the show. Now yesterday we have got a news that Chinese military has sent one of its ships to the Colombo port. The Colombo port, which was built by the Chinese last year in Sri Lanka, and they are calling it a research ship. Now everyone knows, everyone who has some level of geopolitics knowledge knows that this is not a research ship. This is a spy ship, and they are going to use it obviously for spying, as they tend to do when it comes to all of these ships in the southeastern China Sea as well as around India as well. That's what they do, and this is not good considering last week the Maldivian president-elect. Now Maldives is on the left side of us. If you look at the map straight, the Maldivian president-elect has already told us to send our military back home, which means that after our military is gone, then Chinese will come there, and they will give them money, and then they will build a base there as well. So we'll have Chinese military on our left side as well as our right side. Now that is addition to the Belt and Road Initiative they have going on, because now they have already covered us from our south side, as I said, Maldives, then they have Sri Lanka, and then all these southeastern countries which they have some connection with, to make sure that if there's anything breaks out, if a war kind of situation breaks out of any kind of embargo as well, then they will have support to cut us off from the stream. Now addition to that, as I said, Belt and Road Initiative, Pakistan as well as some of the old Soviet states like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and all these other countries which kind of surround us, they already made roads there and infrastructure there to make sure that they are in depth of the Chinese military or the Chinese Communist Party. So if there is anything happens, then they can use it as leverage to use it against us. And that is addition to all the problems you have, all the problems they have with the Nepal border as well as the Bhutan border, and then there is the Tibetan region as well. And they are building massively there. They are building infrastructure, they are building roads, they are building offices, they are even making towns in there. They are making Chinese towns on the border or the disputed borders of Nepal, Bhutan as well as Tibet. And they are doing it on our northern side, they are doing it on our southern side, they are basically doing it everywhere. Now one of the most important things we need to aware about is the chicken neck issue we have with our northern states, because you know, if you look at the map of India, then there are northeastern states, the Seven Sisters, and then there is this small portion which is called chicken neck, because it's so small that if someone wants to cut off all these northeastern states from India, then they will just have to attack that portion, and then they will have us separated. And even on that border, they are building settlements, they are building roads, they are building infrastructure to make sure their military, their forces, everyone is covered, to make sure if an attack breaks out, then they will have all the resources to make sure that we would fail in that region. And that is the crux of the matter, is that they are covering us from all different sides. They are covering us from the sea, as I told you, with the Maldives and Sri Lanka. They already have the southern Southeast Asian states in their pocket some way or another, except few, because then US is friends with them as well. But then they have some level of grip there. And then obviously, as I told you, the Belt and Road Initiative when it comes to our northern neighbors, even if it's Nepal, it's Bhutan, as well as the ex-Soviet states like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and others as well. So they are trying to surround us, and this is a major national security issue for us. So that's why we need to get our shit straight. We need to make sure that our national security is one of the most important things we need to focus on when it comes to next year. We need to make sure we develop better relationship with all of our neighbors. We need to do more, especially when it comes to all these border incursions they have going on. That's really problematic if we don't do that, because if there is a situation where we have to defend ourselves, war breaks out between us and Pakistan as well as us and China, hopefully it does not, but if it comes, then they will have major advantage, and that's the thing. So that's it for today's show. We'll see you tomorrow.